All right, so the topic for today's mainstay is also going to be adjacent to the cast report because she's been all over the place talking about it, and we're going to watch that in just a minute. And this is Helen Joyce. I don't know if you all know who Helen Joyce is. If not, this is her. She is a bit of a Joanne Rowling sycophant. Recently, she got caught. She organizes all the turf stuff in the UK. She's like one of their leaders. She got busted reading essentially underage Harry Potter erotica. There's some mudblood slut or something like that. It was really bad, right? So she was kind of exposed as this pervert, or what they like to say that we are, degenerate or whatever. But she was reading some pretty smutty stuff about Hermione Granger and her mudblood. That was basically it was like underage race kink or class kink. Gross stuff. It was, but she of course released her statement about what she was doing. Said she was doing research. Now the story that she was reading, it's people are smart on the internet. They used all the little bells and whistles to trace back word for word what she was reading and found the story that she was reading. Her claim here. Let's read this claim. Helen was traveling with colleagues on a train last night, and all were looking in the context of her work, countering the pernicious influence of gender identity ideology. Helen has done a great deal of research on how young people, especially girls, develop trans identities. In her writing and speaking, she has often covered the significant role of fan fiction in the process. She has written about this for The Economist in her own newsletter, and spoke about the topic on several podcast interviews, but none that she was working on at this time. And unfortunately, due to the nature of the story, we are, pretty confident that the story she was reading has nothing to do with gender. It doesn't. It's just it's race play. If you read the story, or class play. With a higher class, the subjugated class with the wizards being over the mudbloods and all. It's really it's quite a kinky story about teenage wizards, about children engaging in sexual acts. So she wants to claim she was doing research for work, but isn't that what everybody's always said when they got caught looking at any kind of porn? All right, so without further ado, we're gonna give Miss Helen Joyce the floor here and listen to the nonsense that she has to say about the cast report. Because why not? She's an idiot. We should always give the people who want to kill us a chance to string their own noose, right? That seems to be a reasonable thing to want to do. All right, there we go. Let's see.
It has been reported that schools will be banned from proactively teaching gender ideology to kids. Under new guidance issued by the Education Secretary, teachers should steer clear of the subject unless directly asked by a pupil, and all materials used must be shared with parents.
Well, joining us live is Helen Joyce, author and director of advocacy at Sex Matters. Helen, do you welcome this new announcement, or do you think it doesn't go far enough?
Well, I mean, I welcome it, but I think that until you come to the point that you're not telling children unscientific and harmful lies...
See if I can't get them boosted, the volume boosted here real quick. Give me just a second. They're awful quiet on my end. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but, I want to make sure that it's at least as good as it can be. Yeah, that's default. All right, so let me see if that sounds any better.
Any suggestion that a child can be accommodated in school as a member of the opposite sex is something that goes completely contrary to safeguarding and should just be off the table in schools. And that will be extremely important.
Can you use your word? Can you use your words and explain why it's dangerous instead of just asserting that it's dangerous? Can we do that? Is that a possibility? Yeah, let me know if it sounds all right on your all's end. It should be kind of balanced out with mine now, but that's not saying a lot because mine's bouncing all over the place too. It's just annoying. Anyway, yeah, continuing on.
Deals with gender distress, because the other big thing that we're expecting tomorrow is the report from Dr. Hilary Cass, who was asked to look at the NHS treatment of gender distressed children. And schools and clinics feed into each other in this problem.
The thing is, Helen, that the entire situation now in terms of gender ideology and what happens in the classrooms is not transparent, and it is also not consistent. So we know very well there are schools that will accept a kid who says, I want to be a girl immediately. There are others that won't. There is no consistency across the country.
So I don't like the term gender ideology in general, just because it's not, being trans isn't an ideology, right? Having a gender isn't an ideology. People are just confused about what it means to have a gender, so they say it's an ideology. There's a lot of terminology that they use on the mainstream media in the UK that kind of is a little bit disturbing.
Or policy about what schools should do. That's why the Education Secretary, Gillian Keegan, is trying to come up with something. I would suggest that if this is her solution, she hasn't published it yet, but this is coming from very good sources, that you're not allowed to discuss gender ideology unless a kid brings it up, unless a pupil brings it up. So that's just not satisfactory. That is ridiculous. In fairness to
why though?
Keegan, apparently,
why is it ridiculous? You're gonna have to use your words. You guys just assert that there's a problem with having a non-conforming gender, or a gender that doesn't conform to your standards. That there's something inherently wrong with that you aren't addressing. You're just asserting it. Like, we all know that it's wrong to be trans. And then continuing the statement. That's you're preloading your story, your narrative here.
Does say that if gender ideology does crop up as a subject in the classroom, teachers have to say it is a contested belief system. So that's fair enough. But just saying, well, you can't discuss it unless a pupil said that isn't clarity at all, is it?
I haven't seen what she's going to do, and of course
I think the potential of what that could be taken as is, that at least they're saying that if the student expresses something, they can say something to the school staff. The problem arises with this that no matter how your family feels about you being trans like this, or having this thought that you might be trans, are going to be abusive towards you, then there's sort of a moral obligation to not expose that child to that sort of response from their home life or from their peer group or whatever. You sort of have a responsibility to that child as to protect them. I mean, that's generally, if you went to school to be a teacher, that's one thing that you do, is you care about kids, right?
Will be in the detail here, but I think what she's trying to do, I hope what she's trying to do, is to stop the outright indoctrination that a lot of schools are involved in at the moment, where they tell children that everybody has a gender identity. They tell them
because they do. As far as genders are in gender identity they're cultural constructs, right? What it means to be a woman in the UK is not 100% lined up Venn diagram with what it means to be a woman in Papua New Guinea, or in what culturally where they define what a woman is, because they'll give you this definition of adult human female, right, which is kind of out of order if you ask me anyway. When human, it should be adult female human, right? the human is the subject, right? If you're making the subject the female, then you're already pre-packaging the idea that the subject is born with this genetic distinction without defining it, which is what you're supposed to be doing with the definition, right? So you got adult, which is generally arbitrary and cultural, right? Across different cultures and different times, what it meant to be an adult was subjective, and then you'll have human, which we're all human, but there are other species of humans that have existed throughout history, so we can encompass all that. I can be okay with what we're calling a human there. So, but we, as long as we both acknowledge that we're drawing an arbitrary line, because there's no reason why like a Neanderthal wouldn't be considered a human, because we use the term like Neanderthal woman, and she's not a Homo sapiens sapiens, she's a Homo sapiens neanderthalensis or Homo neanderthalensis. So there's distinctions to be made there, and then of course there's the tricky one, which is female. Because when it comes to female, there's you're talking about sex, and people want to say sex was a binary, but sex is multifaceted, right? There's so many different systems in your body that contribute to your sex and your sexual expression. That you cannot say that that's not exist on a binary. You want to say something along the lines of reproductive sex is binary. Well, reproductive sex is just one aspect of sex, which is involved specifically with making babies. Where when we're talking about, like, say, phenotypic sex, which is the sex that actually matters in the way you interact with the world around you, then definitely I want to go with the narrative that sex is not on a binary. It might be bimodal, but definitely not on a binary. All right.
That their sex doesn't matter compared with their gender identity. They say that what makes you a boy...
Your sex does matter. Things, your reproductive, the organs that you have, the glands that you have, what your endocrine system is built in your body, how you're naturally built to respond to that endocrine system prompts, all comes into play here. So, what matters about your health care and everything is going to come down to what system we're talking about. Not you as an individual. You're either going to fit in this box or that box. You might fit in this box for these systems of your body, and these boxes for these systems. And when it comes to reproductive health, transgender folks are always going to be kind of set in their own unique case with a chimera of healthcare needs.
Or a girl is your feelings about being a boy or a girl, and that people can be neither male nor female. So she's trying to stop that proactive indoctrination. But I agree with you that if a child comes to you and says, I feel non-binary, like being told that you can discuss that, well, what are you meant to say? I mean, everyone is male or female. That is just a fact, and it's just going to be a fact for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not. It's not very helpful to teachers to...
But no, everybody's not male or female. There's people that are non-binary, people that are mostly male and mostly female. Again, chimeras are the thing that come up, but you're gonna disregard them, and you're going to put all your focus on a person's reproductive value in society, which is going to be demeaning to just women in general and kind of misogynistic.
Even suggest that there's something that's up for discussion.
Like, you're shaming me for not being able to have a baby. Nothing to do with my identity as a woman. Just that I don't have... I was born without the parts to have a baby if I wanted to have one.
Discussion here, of course you should be compassionate. But I mean, we just all are our sex. That's just a fact.
We have here is the whole...
No, I am not my sex. I am my brie. As far as what defines me with sex. Only when I'm intimate with somebody and we have that relationship, is that gonna fucking matter, Helen?
Is rather bolted. There are already too many teachers who say we're not going to follow this legislation, we'll do what we want to do, because they themselves have almost been brought up over the last couple of years to believe that if you
that's some Chaya Rychak kind of argument right there.
And say what you're saying, they're somehow committing a moral sin. Social media bombards young kids with this brain rot. So it's almost as if the government...
Why is it brain rot? Use your words. You're just asserting that it has these negative inclinations without providing any kind of any kind of validation for your claim that it's brain rot. Tell us why it's brain rot. I don't just take that at face value.
Was acting way too late and trying to put the jack back in the box. Now, one thing that might do that, of course, like you said, is the Hillary Cass report. Do you think that this is potentially going to open up an avenue for future litigation where young people will turn around and say, because of the affirmative approach, when I went to my guardians and my seniors and those who are responsible for my welfare, whether it be teachers, doctors and so forth, I'm having these confusing thoughts. I was just a teenager. I got them in my head because...
Dude, I had these confusing thoughts when I was a teenager. Oh my gosh. And I wish I had that option. I really do. It would have changed my whole life for the better. I mean, potentially, I can't say, all butterfly effect would come from it, but just in general, the stuff that I struggled with, especially in my youth, with my gender and sexuality, all stemmed from trying to conform to this masculine cis male role that did not really compliment me as very, very well. Trying to roll like that. I've been through that damage, so I wanted people to be able to get in front of it.
It was everywhere in pop culture, it was everywhere online. Then I got convinced, because everyone said, oh, that's really nice, you should go for it, that I took puberty blockers, then I had top surgery, and now I'm infertile, and I've ruined my body. Do you think actually it could open the door for some pretty strong legal action in the future?
Please stop worrying about children, or making your argument that I want my children to be, or I want other people's children to be able to be fertile. That's weird and gross. Stop it.
Well, you're talking about the nightmare scenario. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more that the horse is already bolted here. I mean, there are lots of children who have gender distress and who get socially transitioned to the school who don't
gender dysphoria
actually ever go near a gender clinic, and they don't have puberty blockers and mastectomies and so on. So that's important to say. But those children can be very distressed anyway by having been told lies about themselves, and also they're put at risk. It puts every child in a school at risk.
You put children at risk because you're challenging the healthcare or the position of the healthcare providers on what is best to take care of children when you're not qualified to do so.
Boys are told they can use girls' spaces or vice versa, or if people can't say when they're doing risk assessment what sex children.
Wait, hold on.
Children are, or vice versa. It puts every child in a school at risk if boys are told they can use girls' spaces or vice versa.
But they're not boys being told they're going to use girl spaces. It's a child being told, if you're a girl, you can use this space. If you're a boy, you can use that space. And nobody else gets to tell you which one you are. That's the message. You're putting your cart before your horse there.
Or if people can't say when they're doing risk assessment what sex children are. I do think that opens up liability for schools. Schools have preeminent...
Why does it make a difference about risk assessment? Please clarify what different care you would provide a child that's sex-based. You disgusting person. What about, is it the fertility thing again? Are you saying that, we have to treat little girls different because they can get pregnant? Is that the thing? Because, yeah, some of them can, not all of them. We're talking about children here again. So how about a risk assessment whether or not a child can get pregnant or not? Because there's going to be cis children that can't get pregnant either.
Got a safeguarding role, and you can't safeguard if you're pretending that some male people are female. It's really my nightmare that this is going to turn into liability.
It's not pretending. When someone has gone through the services of getting hormone treatment and hormone replacement, they have hijacked the endocrine system, and they are switching those systems over to run on the other software and to build tissue based on that software prompt, right? So to claim that if you change everything, all the expression on your body, but because your reproductive organs that you use to make babies are this specific formation, that you fall into this category. Because one system of 72 controlled by your endocrine system is able to... Yeah, the way they do Their math blows my mind here.
And this horse-bolted thing, it's not just social media, you know. The government has known for years that schools' practice is inconsistent and poor, and it's been too scared to do anything about it. Like, good for Gillian Keegan that she's finally doing this now, but we've needed this guidance for about 10 years. And in the meantime, schools have become emboldened to do things that they shouldn't have done. We've just seen a union, a teachers' union.
What do you mean things that they shouldn't be done? It's just a vague boogeyman of them doing the thing. What are they doing? What are they doing, Helen? I keep wanting to call her Joanne.
Encourage teachers to specifically, actively go against the school's guidance when it's published. I mean, that's outrageous. Unions should not be exhorting their teachers to go against government guidance that was got with an awful lot of legal advice and that was done with great care. So there's been multiple failures here. Whether that leads to court cases is not really so clear to me. But I mean, what we can say is that an awful lot of people have done an awful lot of harm in professional situations, and they really should have known better. And now finally...
That's you. You're the person doing harm. Because you have no credentials at all, as the Australian courts have decided, to talk on these subjects. You're not qualified to have this discussion. You shouldn't be going on TV shows saying things that you're not qualified to say and trying to discredit people who are qualified to say things in the contrary. You're a grifter.
We're starting to row back, which is good, but a bit late.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that it's all very well issuing guidance to schools. The problem with guidance is there's no compulsory factor in that. So Gillian Keegan has already, regardless of this upcoming report, she has already ordered teachers to share all classroom material with parents. This is, of course, if they're discussing gender ID, or perhaps if a kid has gone to a teacher and say...
I'm actually okay with parents having access to see all material available to children. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know why you think that's a big gotcha here. I disagree that other children's parents should get to dictate what material my kid has access to, though. Like, if you get in there and you find genderqueer in the library, I'm against your ability to say, hey, I don't want Bree's kids to be able to read this book. I'm against that. That's my freedom, to be against that. If you're pro-freedom, you should be against it, too.
I think I'm in the wrong body. Now, we know that quite a few schools regard this as a secret between the teachers and the kids. In other words, as far as they're concerned, it is the state that raises children, not...
Isn't this the character that Mike Myers from Saturday Night Live played on... So I Married an Axe Murderer, like the grandpa, the old Scottish guy? Looks just like him.
Mums and dads. That is not a country I want to live in. Gillian Keegan says, no ifs, no buts, no more excuses. Teachers must share this with parents, and yet many of them are not. I think we need some orders. We need some instructions, more than just guidance.
You are allowed to protect children from potentially abusive parents. I don't know why these people are so against trying to regulate child abuse in the home via the school system. It's the best resource we have to find out if a child is being abused and neglected at home is the school system. Why do you want to take that away?
I mean, again, I cannot disagree with you. It's so true. It's extraordinary how this has happened. I do think that we'll end up in court, and the only way to end up in court isn't suing. There are other ways, for example, judicial review. I mean, I complained to my own son's school about their outrageous trans guidance, which was obviously unlawful in all sorts of respects, and I got nowhere, and I brought the complaints procedure right to the end and was brushed off. In the end, they told me that telling boys they can use the girls' toilets doesn't mean that those aren't girls' toilets. Like, logically, of course it does. It means they're mixed-sex toilets.
But those aren't boys. They're trans girls. You're confused because you don't know what the words you're saying mean. You have your meaning and you're trying to force it onto other people, which isn't cool. Stop being weird. Stop being word police.
Anyway, I got nowhere, and I had nowhere that
As you shouldn't have.
I think...
As you shouldn't have.
It's very difficult for parents to bring judicial review because they don't want to harm their own child. They don't want the years of stress and grief. It's really the DFE's job to do this. What we would recommend at Sex Matters, where I work, is that the DFE writes a model policy and tells schools that if they follow it and they're challenged, that the DFE will come in with them on any legal action. Because that's what schools' leadership teams want more than anything else. They want legal security. So if you tell them, do this, and if you're sued, the DFE will come in with you. Do anything else and you're on your own. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, very good point, Helen, and really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Helen Joyce says she's the author of Trans, When Ideology Meets Reality, and she's the Director of Advocacy at Sex Matters.
Yeah, so that's our good friend Helen Joyce. I say good friend, sarcastically, of course. This is from a channel called Sex Matters, so obviously, very turfy. And this is their position. Oh yeah, they're all over the Cass report. Look at that, Cass. The first 4 videos, Cass. They're really dying on this hill that this Cass report is their new holy grail.